Check out this video posted by the Eagles today. Jalen Hurts and Zach Vaughn at the Eagles practice facility with Special Olympians playing some football, doing some drills. Hurts sporting a new look in the process. But a great time was had by all, and great to see the Eagles giving back during the offseason.
Absolutely.
Welcome into Birds Huddle, presented by Toyota, official automotive partner of the NFL. Barrett Brooks, Ashlyn Sullivan here with you. Pretty cool to see that, Barrett, overall, and just great to see the guys back at the NovaCare complex,
I
right?
mean, it's any football, even, it's football to me, but then they're giving back the way they're giving. That's what it's all about, If you're fortunate enough to be able to give, people, that's great. That's an amazing big trait that they do with the Eagles. And
great to see them back in Philadelphia as well. And how about this new look that Hurts is sporting? Trim down the beard a little bit. How about the mustache?
I don't know about it.
I got to get used to it. I got to get used to it.
I'm used to it. I need a little facial hair, I'm just a little bit. More than just a mustache. I can't trust him. It's almost like I can't trust him with that mustache.
I think it's just a vacation off-season thing.
Right.
I don't see him sporting that week one. Then I think it's a topic.
Right. Well, he might have it like me. I got the gray hair, so he might say that. They might think I'm old because of the gray.
Oh, he thinks it's time. Well, he's only like a couple years younger than you, so
appreciate it.
We transition to our three-point stance presented by Toyota. First stance, Jeff Stoutland finally speaks up. The Eagles' former offensive line coach was a guest on the season podcast with Nick Foles, and he opened up about his departure from the team. Take a listen.
Lane and I, we came in together in 2013. That was the Chip Kelly first year. I always think we felt like we would end up leaving together as well. I don't know. There was a kind of a silent, almost agreement, but that didn't happen, unfortunately. But I think there's some point in your life where you kind of know. You kind of just know. Mm-hmm. And I think that I think I reached that point. I was in a position where a lot of things changed. Things were happening, things had taken place. And I'm like, wait a second, this is like what I talk to the other players about all the time. So I just felt like it was that time.
Such respect there for Jeff Stoutland.
Yes.
It's been a couple of months without him. It still feels weird. I don't think it'll really sink in, Barrett, until training camp when you look around and you don't see him out there.
We conversate all the time, but for him not to be there now, I don't know what to do. Stoutland University closed, now we have Cooper Junior College. We'll see what's going on. But I understand. I think it's more so the scheme and not necessarily the coach. I think that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest determining factor. The new coaching staff, we have a new offensive coordinator, needed a new coaching scheme. And I don't think it married up with what Coach Stoutland wanted to do. He's one of those guys, he wanted to just dog people out, come off the ball, hit people, drive people off the ball. And that scheme that they're running, the more zone scheme, is more of a technique where you're trying to displace guys, kind of move guys, more of a finesse blocking scheme. They made that scheme initially for, actually players that were smaller and less talented, so you had to, take advantage of moving guys with space as opposed to just driving and knocking guys off the ball. Our offensive line is big enough, we could do that. And I think, it's just not really necessarily the techniques. I think it's more so the scheme that's really, made the requirement for the change. If you look at it, because they're going to keep those same type of pass sets that our tackles have, they're not going to lose that. They're still going to coach those things the same way they are. Because why? Because they work. Getting off the ball quick, getting back, getting to your set, almost being offside. All that stuff will stay. It's just the schemes will be different. Technique will be the same. Schemes will be different.
Right. You can't blame the Eagles for wanting something new, wanting something creative, and Jeff Stoutland at the point of his career saying, I'm good with what I did. You respect both sides there. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's lead to stance 2 here. Cam Jurgens will bounce back in 2026. The Eagles center went to South America this offseason for stem cell treatment after a tough year. He was on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast and explained the injuries he's dealt with going back to the 2024 season.
It's tough. That Super Bowl we won. I had a herniated disc, and then right before the playoffs, my disc broke off and got wrapped around my sciatic nerve. So it was just suffocating my leg. It was hard to walk. I don't know how I was playing. It was easily the worst month of my life, but then also kind of the best month of my life because we won the Super Bowl. But it was just miserable, dude. Just the pain and then getting surgery and trying to get back for the next year. And It's always tough having a surgery in the off season, but when you have back surgery, it is tough. Like, it takes a good year to come back from that. And like, I'm starting to feel really good, but dude, just all year, just trying to get through that. Just a tough year with the back, but it's feeling so much better.
Oh my God.
That is crazy. And it makes sense because there'd be times in the locker room where you'd see Cam Jurgens, and truthfully, he could barely walk to his locker. And I'm thinking, how's he going to play on Sunday? And then he shows up and plays on Sunday. So credit to him for fighting through that.
Exactly. You give him, yeoman's effort for doing that. But, sciatic nerve, that's one of the worst injuries you could have. I mean, that will keep you in bed. It keep you from moving, and it makes your legs, it feels like your legs aren't attached to your body, to your back. And that's the problem. The defensive coordinator started game planning Cam Jurgens because of that. They would start guys in one gap, and as soon as the ball was snapped, they put him on the other side, knowing that his body was not going to be able to react and come off the ball because of that sciatic nerve. So I kept telling people, that's not who Cam Jurgens is. He's a much better player than that, and because of that injury, he just couldn't do it. His back just wasn't attached to his legs, and he couldn't move, and he couldn't redirect. That's why we couldn't run the tush push. We're talking about a guy coming off the rock, as low as he can get, he couldn't get down there. His back just didn't allow him to. So what happens? We had to stop running the tush push because he just couldn't get down low enough to do it. And I kept telling people that, but you just, it's hard to really, put it into, terms as far as, all right, he should sit down. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But he's not. I mean, he's a trooper. He wanted to fight. He wanted to fight through it. And it's just tough. Like I said, defensive coordinators game planned that and knew that he couldn't react the way he reacted because of that back injury.
Right, and that's why I think it's exciting to think about what Cam Jurgens could be fully healthy, because there was a time last season where the Eagles better to just sit him, but I think they wanted that consistency with Jalen Hurts snapping, but overall to think of how Cam Jurgens was playing to what he could be at 100%, at least excites me for next year.
Oh, he'll definitely be, a lot better than he was. And we talk about health as wealth. That'll be the biggest thing. If they could be healthy, this could be a dominant offensive line again. So, yes, I'm looking forward to that.
And now to stance number 3. The Eagles shouldn't wait to extend Jalen Carter. After playing the first 3 seasons of his rookie deal, Carter is eligible for an extension. We saw the Eagles extend Jordan Davis earlier to the tune of 3 years, $78 million. We think Jalen Carter possibly could be the highest paid defensive player in NFL history, perhaps. We're talking big time money. So you got to think Howie Roseman, his history tells that he doesn't wait on these things.
Yeah, I mean, his agent is one of the guys, he's going to make sure.
Knocking.
Yeah, and he's going to make sure. Drew Rosenhaus is going to make sure he's going to be the highest paid defensive lineman. And it should be so. Stop playing around with it. Just go ahead and pay the guy. He's a generational talent. Although he didn't play up to, what we'd have seen him play, he was dominant when that shoulder was acting right. So now I see him training the way he's training, getting those shoulders right. He will be back to being the most dominant force, not just at the defensive line, but the most dominant force on the defense, period. He will be one of the best players in the NFL. He has that type of, air about himself, and I think he plays up to that ability again. So either pay him now and get him at a fair market value, or you wait till he plays this year, balls out, and he gets even more than what you think he should get. So, I'd rather pay him now.
I agree with you, but there's part of me, Barrett, I don't know if I trust the consistency, which is crazy to say with what a talented player he is. It's just with the injuries and at times the ups and downs, what he's going to demand right now, it makes me a little nervous. I'm not going to lie.
It makes a lot of people a little nervous, but I'm just saying from experience of seeing the same situation, I've seen teams wait like they did Dak Prescott, and what does he do? He becomes the highest paid player in the NFL because they waited instead of going and pay him like the Eagles did, Jalen Hurts. Mm-hmm. Well, they go do the same thing with Jalen Carter. If you wait, he's going to get paid even more than expectations. So, I mean, I just rather just get it done. He's going to be with your squad. Yep. He's going to be that type of talent. I just go with it. I just pay him.
You're paying him at some point. So
yes.
It might as well be right now.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense. It is time once again for Barrett's Breakdown, and here we are at the big board to look at another potential draft prospect for the Eagles. Today we focus on edge rusher Cassius Howell out of Texas A&M University. Howell played his first 3 years of college ball at Bowling Green, but transferred to the Aggies and absolutely blossomed into the SEC Defensive Player of the Year last season. Racked up 11.5 sacks last year, 27 in his college career. Also ran a 4.59 in the 40-yard dash. Barrett, this is a really explosive player. It would make a lot of sense, especially with the need at edge rusher for the Eagles.
Oh, you look at the kid, he fits the mold of what you have here. We talked, earlier on before we got on the show and said, he's kind of small in stature, 6'2", 250, around that. But hey, look at our guys we have.
Yeah.
That seems to be what we have here. You look at a guy that, the smaller, quicker, and that's what he is. But hey, Cassius Howell, I love him because, number one, he loves to play football. Mm-hmm. He loves to be a football player. And you can tell by the way he plays that he enjoys doing what he's doing. Watch this. Now, you talk about a dip. Look at that dip and rip. Come on around that offensive tackle. He didn't even touch him. Sack right there. Sack. I mean, he's got the moves. And watch. Recognition. He sees the chipper out there. I'm not going to go and bump my head against the chipper. Beat that tackle inside. Don't touch him again. Another sack. But he also has a high football acumen. He has a high football IQ. Watch this. They're going to pull this guard and try to kick him out. Well, first of all, this guard, he's powder puff, well, come on now. But he gets up underneath him, another tackle for loss. Tackle for loss. I mean, come on now. And talking about high football IQ, here he is outside. He says, you know what? I'm rushing up the field, and it's looking like, it's a screen. He reads the screen, knocks the pass down. High football IQ, loves to play the game, quick and explosive. He's going to be on somebody's board pretty high, but I tell you what, I think 23 is a little too rich for us. I think he'll be later in the first, maybe early second, but I tell you what, he is a player. I mean, I love football players that love football, yes. And you can tell that he does love doing this.
Yes, his stature reminds me a lot of Nolan Smith. They kind of look the same,
yes.
physical attributes. But I remember last year just watching college football on the couch. I remember it was Texas A&M, LSU, and they kept going to Cassius Howell before pre-snap, and he's John at the LSU offensive line. And getting a lot of pre-snap penalties because of it, and I'm thinking, wow, that's a mean football player, which is a very big compliment.
Well, you see the guy to try to pull against him. I guess he talked him into, hey, I'm going to pull, but don't hit me too hard. But, yeah, I mean, he was just steady telling him, hey, you can't block me. Oh, come on, you can't block me.
A lot of that, yep.
And he couldn't block him, because he was just trying to get off the ball and jumping off sides. I think he caused like 3 penalties in the game because of that. Like I said, high football IQ understands if I can get in your head, I'm going to take it and I'm going to run with it. Cassius Howell is one of those players that if you bring him on your football team, he's going to make your football team better. But at pick number 23, it's a little high, but I would love to see him in Eagle Green. I'm just going to be honest with you, because he's a great football player.
Yeah, especially when you look at how it stacks up with the other edge rushers in this draft. Overall, yes. I think especially when you look like last year, he was drafted probably a day 3 pick. Great story that he's now possibly a first-round pick, but overall, I do think this is a little high, Barrett.
Absolutely. You got those first 3 right there. Those first 3 or 4. I'll say 4. These guys are going to be early first-rounders. They could be in the first round. Cassius Howell towards the end of the first round. But then you got Messidor from Miami. He's opposite of Bain. He can play the game, too. He's just not as athletic as you've seen Bain be and explosive, But then you got Zion Young and Mizzou, really good football player. Then, Thomas from Oklahoma could play the game also. But when you look at these guys, you can get some real value in picking the guys up. It's almost like tiers. It's levels. The first 4 guys, the high tier, the A-plus guys, and then you have Bs and you have Cs. All guys will make a team. All these guys on that list will be starters in the NFL. But it's just bang for your buck early. Those first 4 haven't. And I think he's in that second level of guys that can go out and play and will eventually be starters, whether it be halfway through the season or the next year, they will be starters.
Right, and I'm curious because Howie Roseman doesn't normally draft for need, but overall, I just think pass rusher is such a need this year for the Eagles in free agency and the draft that overall, when you look at Jalen Phillips not being here, this frankly is just not good enough, one Barrett, but it's also just not enough bodies. I think you have to spend a first-round pick at an edge rusher.
I mean, you look at it, and they love to go out and they love to, alternate guys in there, so they always have fresh bodies in there. And Jalen Hunt is still young, still new. Nolan Smith, we got to think about the injury bug. Then, we got Ndike. I think that he's one of those guys that he didn't get his potential while he was in Atlanta. I actually called a couple games when he was at Temple. I think he could be a really good player for us. He might become a starter for us, but we need some more guys in the rotation, maybe younger guys to get things going, and he could be one of those guys to do it. But you're right, we don't have enough. You've seen how we go and bring some guys in later on like the week before training camp.
It might be one of those years, again, overall just absolutely not enough right now.
Or before the trade deadline, like we did before.
But we like that prospect. Yeah.